Everyone, welcome. It is 5:31 p.m. We're at the special meeting here at 100 Polk Avenue here in beautiful city of Cape Canaveral. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Looks like we have at least a quorum here. Majority, our city attorney, city manager, city clerk, and supporting department directors are here. And welcome all of you. Thank you for coming here today. This is a special meeting. We got 3 items. We'll get right into it, and it'll come to a hard stop right at 6 o'clock as we prepare for our regular meeting. And with that, the city clerk, would you please, or with that, I call this meeting to order. And Councilmember Davis, would you please lead us in the pledge? Thank you. Of the United for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
He should be.
City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Kellum. Mayor Morrison.
Here.
Councilmember Raymond.
Here.
Councilmember Willis.
Thank you very much. This time we're going to enter into our public participation portion of the meeting. Now today we actually have our virtual capabilities set up where people can log on and or through phone dial in. And so we'll do our public comments here for anyone who wants to speak. If you haven't filled out a card, please go fill one out for this meeting. It's the yellow highlighted special meeting, and present it to our Sergeant at Arms and we'll make sure to get it. I do got some speaker cards here. And the first one, Mr. Bruce Robertson. Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm Bruce Robertson. I'm a longtime resident of Cape Canaveral, and I'm finally here, to voice my support for Councilmember Kellum and our Mayor Wes Morrison in their opposition to the purchase of 7404 North Atlantic and the subsequent demolition of a fully functional, viable, up-to-code commercial building and the eviction of 2 thriving small businesses, tax revenue generating small businesses, whose only crime appears to be that they're located next door to City Hall. All for what? For an undescribed, ill-defined, outrageously expensive $1.7 million Promenade Park project? I find it hard to understand how a council member who just 2 months ago campaigned as a conservative businessman, as a friend of small business, as a promoter of small business, encourager of small business, could on his first vote on this council, vote to destroy and evict 2 small businesses. Really? Really? Small businesses are the heart and soul of our community. It's just not some slogan you put on a billboard or campaign poster and tear it up once you're elected. There's a lot of talk in this chamber about running this city as a business. Value for money, value for taxpayer dollars. What are we getting for $1.7 million worth of that taxpayer money? What is the Promenade Park project? When I go online and I Google Promenade Park, Cape Canaveral, you know what I get? Nothing. When I go to the city website and I look for Civic Hub, you know what I see? TBA. $1.7 million for a TBA. Really? What is the Promenade Park? Where is the mission statement? Where is the description? What benefits will it offer the citizens of our community? Where is the artist's sketch of it? We even got that for the roundabout. All we're told is it will be marvelous and we will love it. What is it? Is it a green space with benches and a fountain? Is it a paper park? Is it an annex to our art center where we can make clay pots? $1.7 million for clay pots. That's pretty pricey clay pots. Is it an extension to the dog park? Is it bigger than a bread box? Who knows?
Thank you, Mr. Robertson.
Not good enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time to come up and speak. And the I have you marked down for item 1 and 2, but I think that was collective for both the items. Thank you. Okay. And for those of you that might be listening at home that want to participate, if you raise your hand, our deputy city clerk will recognize that. And when we go, that's how we'll know whether or not you want to speak, and they'll be able to unmute you. The next card that I have here is Miss Sarah Hodge. Please state your name and address. Thank you.
I'm Sarah Hodge, and the address we have in Cape Canaveral for our second home is 369 Coral Drive, Cape Canaveral. Do you want our primary residence also?
Yeah, I think that's
okay. I agree with everything Mr. Robinson just said. I have a lot of concerns about the cost of this. Why we are paying more than the appraised value. It's not a good business decision. I support concerns that I've posted on record. I sent them today, the comments. But you don't have the citizen support for this, and you'll find out. But all I can say is it's not a good project. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scott Holmes, please state your name and address. Thank you.
My name is Scott Holmes, and I live at 8102 Ridgewood Avenue. And I just wanted to briefly talk about 2 specific items. One is I am not in favor of a relocation allowance. The reason why I say that is because I've been a small business person for 30 years. I've stood up for my businesses. I've known what's going on with them every single day. And I believe these tenants were on a month-to-month lease. And they've known that they were on a month-to-month lease for a long time. There's other opportunities in Cape Canaveral where they could go. This is assuming that the city is going to buy this building and offer them a relocation allowance. I just don't believe that it's fair for the taxpayers to have to provide that, given the fact that they had certainly ample notice to relocate their businesses in Cape Canaveral, probably to better locations, quite honestly, and they've had time to do so. The other thing that I just want to speak about is I've heard that the property is being purchased at above fair market value, and that doesn't make any sense to me. If you're gonna spend taxpayers' money, I think you should do it wisely. I'm not exactly sure, just like some of these folks, what the property is going to be used for exactly. That is lack of renderings and so forth. But if the town is going to buy it, they should not overspend. And that's my feeling on it. And I think that it's unjust for the council to make that decision and put that burden on all of the taxpayers in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Peggy Green. Green, please state your name and address, please. Thank you.
My name is Peggy Green, and I reside at 219 Long Point Road here in Cape Canaveral and have done so for many years. And I agree with all the people that spoke ahead of me. I don't see why we purchased at a greater price than the man wanted to begin with, a piece of property with a nice building on it, with tenants who pay taxes and build another park, close another road, another street off of A1A down toward the beach and down toward the library. I don't agree with it. And everybody has spoken so eloquently, and I agree with every word that was spoken, that it is not needful. And to me, it's a gross waste of money. And thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members.
Thank you. Mr. Andrew Dodge. Dodge, please state your name and address. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Andrew Dodge, 395 Harbor Drive, last I checked. So I'm a little confused. I reached out to the city on what the promenade project was. I have not gotten anything back yet, so I'm still unclear of what it is. The one thing I do know is that from the dictionary, it says that it's a paved walkway, which seems kind of redundant right next to A1A there. I have no problem with the city purchasing this for future possible use. It just seems a little odd that we would kick the tenants out or remove small businesses from such a small city. My question, however, is that I've heard from a number of neighbors that the concern is that since we're already partway into this project, is there a financially way to be extricated financially without hurting the city's credit rating, without being stuck with something, or is it possible that we can continue to just lease that property and not continue on with whatever project, whatever it is that no one seems to know?
I think that's something we're going to be doing an update, I think, right up front. And if you don't mind, repeat your question, and if we don't get it out, then we'll be able to answer. But
okay,
I
guess my question really comes down to, is there a way to extricate the city from this purchase? And if not, is there a way that we can then become a host to other tenant, property owner, I guess, to the small businesses, and not currently just pave it over for a space next to A1A, which no one seems to want.
Yeah, the short answer is yes, there's a way.
That doesn't hurt the city's credit or doesn't hurt us financially. That's.
Yeah, I think I need staff to confirm that, but from my understanding, no. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Appreciate you speaking, and I appreciate everyone who took the time to speak up. At this time, I don't have any cards. If I miss someone, please raise your hand and or let me know now. Seeing none, I'll go to our GoToWebinar platform and ask our Deputy City Clerk if he has anyone with their hand raised.
We have several hands raised at the moment. I'll try to go in order from when I see they raise their hands. Up first is David Slayman. Mr. Slayman, you're unmuted and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. My name is David Slayman. I live at 8516 Abaco Court. I grew up in Cape Canaveral, and I've been a homeowner here for the last 12 years. And I totally disagree that we should be spending $1.7 million in debt to buy a small parcel and remove the building. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's such a small piece of land. I don't know why you'd want to put a park right on A1A anyway. So I do disagree. And I think we shouldn't buy it. If we can get out of the contract without any financial responsibility, or if it's even a reasonable cost to get out of the contract, I think we should not even buy the building. But I'll leave that up to the city experts to determine that. If we're locked into buying the building, I agree we shouldn't tear the building down, and we should lease it until we can actually sell the building and get our money back. You know, for the last 12 years, when we have torrential rains, I can't even get to A1A. The water is so high on some of the side streets to actually get from Ridgewood to A1A. And that's been like that for 15, 20 years. I just don't understand why we're buying land for no reasonable, for no purpose, but yet we can't find the money to fix our streets when we get torrential rains. And it happened again this year. There was a torrential rain, last year, fourth quarter torrential rain, I could barely get out. And I did agree with other gentlemen that we shouldn't be paying for relocation packages that unless there's a specific reason why we think we need to, but we're doing a month-to-month lease. These renters should already understand their responsibilities. So thank you for your time. I think I'm good now.
Thank you, David. Daniel, I'll just let you run with it from here.
All right. Next hand raised is Ms. Shannon Roberts. Ms. Roberts, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes, ma'am. Go ahead, Ms. Roberts.
Looks like we're having a hard time hearing Dr. Roberts. If you hear this, just make sure to keep your hand raised, and Daniel might be able to come back to you here towards the end.
All right. The next hand raised is Mr. Patrick Campbell. Mr. Campbell, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Patrick Campbell, 307 Surf Drive, 45-year resident of Cape Canaveral. I too, as everyone else that spoke, am opposed to buying that property. I think the city has much higher priorities than the Stanity pet project purchase. And if we can get out of it, even if it's a cost, we should get out of it and not buy the property and not put two businesses out and not do anything with that. And I thank you for the bringing back the webinar. I appreciate it. And I also am opposed to the roundabout. Are we going to have a separate section for that, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll come back and talk at that time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next hand that went up, I believe, is Patricia Dugan. Patricia, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Patricia Dugan, 300 Columbia Drive. I've been a resident of Florida for 50 years and Cape Canaveral for 20. Putting our community in debt gives access to corporate entities that have no local priorities, only their profit. And there's no proof that any of this is going to benefit the people of Cape Canaveral. I yield. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Daniel, this time I just want to pause. Do you have a rough estimate on how many additional hands are raised?
At this time, there are 4 hands raised.
4 hands. I want to bring this back to the council just for a moment. We're going to come back to you. It's important that we hear those public comments. But council, I'm obviously it's 5:50 p.m. What do we want to do? I'm trying to stay ahead of the time.
Well, I would make a motion that we bring the public comments back to the regular meeting. It means we have to start their meeting at 6. I would make a motion to continue with the subject, which is very important to the people, and let them be heard and council be heard as well.
Make sure I understand. you want to continue the public comments, and then do we take up the agenda items at the regular meeting?
Yes. I mean, if we do the regular meeting at 6 o'clock, how do we let all these people talk? So can we just continue this meeting into the 6 o'clock meeting?
Well, I think we'll need to adjourn. Our city attorney can correct me, but we'll need to start the regular meeting, right? I mean, opposed to just rolling right into it. Or can we start the regular meeting late? I know our ordinance talks about.
Well, the regular meeting's supposed to start at 6. I mean, if this meeting goes a little over, I don't see a problem with, starting the 6 o'clock meeting, maybe, 15 minutes later, or,
Okay.
and so you can dispense with the special meeting.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I think that, I feel that we should continue with this meeting, get this over with. We've already made the decision, and it's all, that part of it is over with. And on the code of conduct, I would like to remind you that it says very clearly, we all signed this. I will support and advocate for my beliefs, but will remain open to understanding the views of others. I recognize that I share responsibility for all city decisions and will accept the will of duly authorized decisions of the city council and city electorate. We've already made a decision on this. We have had 2 ordinances and they have been approved. So we have already directed our city staff to proceed. And this is what we have already signed. All of us signed this. You and I signed it in 2017. And this code of conduct is very important and it should not be broken. But I do think that we should continue with the special meeting and let people say what they want to say. And I'd like to remind people that we have quite a few people who are part of the silent majority of Cape Canaveral. And they have approved this. They feel that it's a great project and they are very much in favor of it. Will be the completion of the Cape Canaveral campus. Thank you.
Just want to be clear. Do we want to continue with public comment?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Are
agree.
you okay with starting the meeting a little late? That's really what I'm trying to
Yes,
find out.
I have no issue hearing public comments. One thing that I don't understand, we did take oath. This has been voted on twice. This is a done deal. The city has decided, the council has decided to purchase this. Again, it has moved forward. It's getting ready for demolition. At this point, I don't understand why we are, as a council, trying to let the public believe that there is a chance that this deal will not go through. This building has been voted on twice. If we understand our oath and what the oath that we took, we understand code of conduct paragraph P. And if we go against that, we are breaking our oath that we took. So as far as I'm concerned, I am grateful. I will listen to you. I will get your opinions. But again, I agree. There are a lot of people that are out there that approve the purchase of this. They're afraid to go on social media to say anything for retaliation. So at this point, I will listen, but it is not fair to let the public believe that this purchase is not going through when it is a done deal, unless we are going to go against our oath and go against this council's decision. So I will listen, but I think that overall, I don't think we should continue on the entire night for this when we have other topics. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll start the meeting at 6:15. I think is reasonable, and just kind of roll into it. It would probably be good to have a 5-minute break in between. So we will continue on. Thank you, council. Daniel, back to you, please.
All right, next hand raised is Gwendolyn Hagar. Gwendolyn, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Gwendolyn Hagar. I live at 509 Washington Ave in Cape Canaveral. And I'm hearing for the first time that this was initiated back in 2017. I'm not sure how I missed out on the earlier activities, but I'm really hoping that the next time we venture into such an investment that affects our community, that I'm made aware of it and that I'm able to attend and understand better what these projects entail, what their strategies are, and what their plan is. This is the first time I'm hearing it's a completion of a Cape Canaveral campus. So I look forward to seeing that plan and strategy for such a campus. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next hand raised is Catherine Corlett. Catherine, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes. Ms. Corlett, I see you're still muting yourself. If you want to unmute yourself, you can unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, sorry, I thought I was unmuted. I lived at 8910 Coquina Lane. I've lived in Cape Canaveral for 25 plus years. Growing up in Cape Canaveral, I have seen the same buildings stay the same blight stay the same, nothing has changed. Over the years, through the minutes of the council meeting, I've heard you guys talk about how we're gonna change the sidewalks, we're gonna change the blight, we're gonna change this, we're gonna change that, which is what the citizens want, and I think that's a great idea. But to put the citizens in debt for a building that people don't want, and now come to find out that it's a done deal and we're just all saying this for no reason, is kind of upsetting. I think that the citizens should have an input on something that big of a deal, especially when most of the people in the city do not want it. I hope it can be changed. I hope that's not true. And for the people that, the silent majority that are secretly wanting this, where are they? Why are they not coming up and standing up for it and saying, yes, this is what we want? Because all I hear is people saying, no, this is not what we want. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
All right, the next hand raised is John Steedley. John, you're unmuted. You can unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, John Steedley, 335 Harbor Drive, Cape Canaveral, resident for about 10 years. I just found out about this tonight. I guess like the councilwoman said that it's a done deal from 2017, but Cape Canaveral has a history of these kind of shady and poorly thought through designs and plans with the campus. Is pretty, looks like it belongs in West Palm Beach. All about improving the area, but I would say that overpaying market value would be a mistake. And I just hope that there's better communication in the future. We want a good community. I'm not afraid to spend money to make it better, but I would say nay on paying over market rate for a property that's not probably worth the 1.7 at all. So that's all.
Thank you.
All right, the next speaker with their hand raised, looks like I only see a last name of Myers. Myers, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Lillian Myers, and I live at 5807 North Banana River Boulevard in Cape Canaveral. And I will say that I've lived here for 5 years. I have always been a little bit alarmed by the kind of less than desirable things that people see when they first arrive in our town that send them farther down the road to find housing and lifestyle that's good for them. And I believe that as we watch things evolve here in the technology community, which is where I'm from, and by the way, I'm entirely pro-business. I run a technology accelerator. I actually help people get started in business as a nonprofit. So I will say that we need business. We need lots of businesses of all types, but I wonder about so many of them on the streets of Cape Canaveral that have poor access and lots of traffic going by, like the building we're talking about, and have often wondered why it still existed. I do believe that it makes sense for us to provide more amenities in our community to bring the kinds of people that we want to live here over the long haul, and make it not just a stopping point on the way to Cocoa Beach or Melbourne, but rather a place where people want to live, work, grow, and evolve, and that all our property values increase, and that the future of our community is secured is one that's very, very important to the new industries that we're attracting here. I do, however, believe that the notion of communication with the community, I too never heard anything about this in the 5 years, 6 years almost that I've been here. Never have heard anything about this, don't know what it is, haven't seen plans for it. And I think that that probably signals that there should be at least a pause on this long enough to elaborate on precisely what it is, why we're doing it, what it's expected to bring to the community specifically, and who it's to serve. That, I believe, will help us all understand better what it is we're trying to do and why we're doing it. Because the why is the most important part here, not just the what. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And what was your name, ma'am? I said the last name was Myers? Lily. Well, thank you very much.
All right, the next hand raised is Charles Kilgore. Charles, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Charles Kilgore. I live at 609 Shorewood Drive. I've been back in Cape Canaveral for about 12 years now. This is my first attendance at any of these meetings. And while it sounds like, as it was put earlier, this is a done deal, between 2017 and 2022 is 5 years. A lot of things change in 5 years. If the commitment was made then, I think I agree with Ms. Myers, who spoke just before me. Maybe it's time to take a pause and see what has changed, what the benefits are at this point, and what the real business model for this is. What's the return on investment? What's going to be the ongoing maintenance cost of this project? All of those associated things. If those were done in 2017, maybe it's time to update them and see if they're still valid or if those numbers have also changed. I'm also a proponent for business growth, but managed business growth. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, but I do highly encourage the council to step back, take a look, and make sure that what was agreed to 5 years ago is still in the best interest of this community, if it was at that point. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, looks like Miss Shannon Roberts has raised her hand again. We'll see if we can get her to have her system work properly. Miss Roberts, your microphone is unmuted on our end. If you want to unmute yourself and speak, you have 3 minutes, ma'am. Ms. Roberts, I see that you have unmuted yourself. You are live, and you just have to speak up, and then you'll be good to go.
Looks like, thank you, Daniel, for your patience. We're having some trouble with her. And Dr. Roberts, if you have the ability to email or get something over to our city clerk's office between now and the meeting, we'll do our best to read it in or whatever mode you can use. But Daniel, just double checking. Anything back from her?
No, she raised her hand again. I'll unmute her one more time, see if she can get it working.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Roberts, I've unmuted you again if you want to give it one more shot.
Okay. And even typing into the comments to Daniel. So if you don't hear anything, I think we're going to need to move on. I'm sorry, Dr. Roberts. We'll do our best to get your comments on the record. Okay. So with that, I don't have any more cards. Daniel, just to be sure, was that the final one?
One more hand just went up.
Okay.
This will be Mr. Sean Fitzgerald.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
All right. Can you hear me now? This is Sean Fitzgerald, 409 Washington Avenue, Cape Canaveral. And it just occurred to me that there's so many people that have expressed that they know very little about the project. I'm wondering if there isn't an opportunity in the very near future to kind of recap what the project is about and some of the benefits and everything for the benefit of the community. In other words, either a special meeting or some kind of information flyer or some kind of something that would inform the folks of what the original thought was with this project. Because myself, I've lived here for 21 years and maybe through my fault of my own, I don't know anything about this project either. And I would like to learn more about it because I'm sure there's a good argument on the other side for going through with this purchase and the project. And I would certainly like to hear that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel, is that it?
No more hands raised at this time, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, council, thank you for hearing public comments out. We're going to bring it back here. We have 3 items tonight on this agenda. We are at 6:08 p.m. and item number 1 is to discuss status of the Civic Hub Project 7404 North Atlantic Avenue. This time, we're ready to move on. Give it our city manager for a quick overview, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. If we had more time, I would be glad to go into more of the history of the project, but I'm being respectful of the time limits here. And we will have a future workshop on the design and the use of this facility. And I'm reading from the summary here. At a special city council meeting on December 7th of 2021, the council voted to move forward with the Civic Hub project at 7404 North Atlantic. In addition, the council voted to extend the closing date by 30 days as provided for in the contract, and to provide relocation assistance of up to $5,000 to the 2 tenants, Airport Salon and iTech, upon receipt of documentation of the payment of the first and last month's rent and security deposit at the new location. In furthering council's directive, staff proposed a document to both of the tenants, and December 31st, 2021 was the deadline for the 2 existing tenants to indicate their acceptance of the council's offer for relocation assistance funding. One tenant, Airport Salon, returned the signed letter of acceptance in a timely manner. Both tenants have proposed counteroffers, however, which are the subject of the following 2 separate agenda items. This agenda is to provide the council with an opportunity to discuss the status of the Civic Hub project and anything else that we have to discuss before we move on to the 2 items 2 and 3, which are the counteroffers. Mayor.
Thank you very much, City Manager. Council, any questions for staff or comments? Yes.
I have a comment. I just would like to clear this up about 2017. What I was referring to is the code of conduct that Mayor Morrison and I signed when we became council members. And the code of conduct is the way that we should act as a council. Once a decision is made, that's it. Then agree with it. Careful about social media and misinformation on social media. So that's all I have to say. I just want to clear that up. And I would like to move forward on this. And we will give an explanation about exactly what this is. I explained that it's a completion of the campus, and people have been talking about this for 10, 20 years, whatever. Okay, thank you.
I just have a question for the city manager. Do we have a date for demolition?
No, we do not. We're in the process of getting bids right now. And I'm sorry to interrupt, Mayor. We do believe that Council Member Willis is on the webinar now.
Okay, thank you. Well, I just want to make sure, Councilmember Davis, you're finished. Okay. Councilmember Willis, if you, just to check, can you hear us okay? Want to make sure we got a good connection.
Yes, I can hear you.
While we have you, I don't know if you've been on since the beginning, but we're discussing item number 1 here. Any comments that you would like to make at this time, or do you want to come back?
No comment.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kellum?
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. Originally I had called a special meeting to discuss this all by itself for as long as it took to hear what the citizens said and to also be able to talk openly with council. It got denied by council, and I'm kind of upset that this is whittled down to 30 minutes now. And you know, I apologize to council and especially the residents that we had to postpone a couple of meetings, but it was unfortunate and it couldn't be helped. The point of this meeting and what I have to say is, for months now, I've been trying to see the Promenade project as a good business deal. I've looked at the preliminary plan ideas for this area. I've been to both businesses that we're displacing. I've talked to many residents, and I've done research, and I have it here. This is my PowerPoint presentation. I've done research back to 2017 on envisioning, survey minutes, CRA plans, even to the very recent envisioning session that was virtually this past week. I certainly don't want to go through every bit of research, and I just want to make a few points to council and ask some questions. Yes, through my research, the town center has resonated, but not any more than the residents' desire for A1A safety, connected streets, sidewalks, bikeable, walkable city, working streetlights, fixing blight, and services wanted by the residents. These things have kept me up at night trying to see Promenade, and I'm going to call it 7404, as a good business deal, as the majority of this council has stated. So here's my questions. Why in the year 2020, besides a conversation one-on-one with the city manager about the prior owner, McDevitt, wanting to sell the property, nothing was brought to the council? An appraisal in February 2020 for $730,000 was done. What did Mr. McDevitt want? Why was there no discussion? In March 2020, the whole world stopped. For the next 5 months, there were several meetings, busy with COVID problems, but no mention of 7404 Atlantic. In June 16th, we had a special CRA meeting, and we talked about how best to make CRA funds inaccessible, allowing small portions to private sector, putting more money into sidewalks, landscaping, improving beautification programs, facade grants, paint vouchers. The city attorney stated, that facade grants, capital projects that eliminate slum and blight are the quintessential redevelopment expenditures. The city manager said at the time and commented that the board will support facade grants, paint vouchers, and small capital projects under the CRA budget for the next fiscal year. A motion was made by Councilman Morrison at the time and Raymond to appropriate funds to small projects and implement financial incentive programs, and the motion carried 5-0. In March 16th at the regular meeting, there was no mention of the Promenade. March 31st, we had the strategic planning, which was interesting. There's, in my collection of research, are the minutes and the plan, if anyone would like to look at it. Council agreed the Promenade would be nice, but not an immediate priority, and for us to get an appraisal. One council member ranked the Promenade as an important issue. Other issues were discussed, including transparency and giving citizens more input. April, there was no mention of 7404. In May, the minutes came from the strategic meeting, and we went through them. Also in appraisal for $775,000 came back as an appraisal for improvements that had been made. It wasn't brought back to council. Did we make an offer? When and who approached the city about being interested in that project? June, no mention, but we did mention 60-year-old infrastructure, flooding issues, and how safety of residents take priority over all else. July meeting, no mention. A budget workshop discussed Oak Lane and the flooding there of the business, Fillmore flooding. August, whatever we need to address flooding issues were discussed, and whatever we need to do from this upcoming budget or the ARPA money needs to happen as soon as we can. August budget meeting, A1A safety, cost of sidewalks, non-presidential street sidewalks, flooding issues in June and July. No mention of the promenade project. The Deepwater well was discussed and how the ARPA money would have to go to that and can't be spent on sidewalks and streetlights. September 21st, the purchase is put on the consent agenda. Why? Something is that for that much of money is put on the consent agenda. Maybe that's because the 3 votes that decided this for the whole rest of the city was already there. The loan request went out on September 7th before the signed sales agreement. How did we know the amount of the loan, and what if council said no? What was the rush? We asked for workshops. We met on September 3rd for the millage rate. October, we requested a workshop. We discussed tenant leases and how to be fair. We had a CRA money requested by, a CRA meeting requested by myself, where we wanted to know where the CRA money has been spent through the years. CRA money since 2017 has been spent mainly on debt. We have a CRA plan that I found doing research that addresses blight and how to help businesses and local residents clean up their houses and businesses to make blight better. The CRA funds end in 2040. We have 18 years left. We just obligated ourselves for 10 more years of blight. When do we start using the money for the residents and the businesses to make our city better? Right now, the city manager at the last meeting we talked about, I don't know the exact date, that 50% of the CRA money goes to debt. November, we discussed more public input. And then we come to the special meeting on the 7th where 3 out of the council voted for this. This is not, to me, a representative of something that is good. And as a council person, my job is to represent the people to do what they want. A 3-2 vote is not an overwhelming support for a project. My concerns for the council, and this is my questions. We're losing 5 potential businesses that could foster entrepreneurship and jobs for our residents. We're losing $8,959 a year in ad valorem tax, which also affects future CRA money. We're losing business tax income of 5 businesses. We're losing a walkable, bikeable location for business. Is this our downtown that we've all talked about, that has been talked about since 2017, with restaurants, small, unique shops that the residents want? If this is a blighted, unfinished building, why are we paying so much more over the assessed value than the appraisal? Why didn't we buy the building at $710,000 under the assessed value that Mr. Schuler paid $20,000 less than the market value? And my last few questions, what is the cap for, do we have a cap for blighted property? At what overall expense does a project cost too much money? What's the number of people, of residents that say they don't want this? What's the number before we listen? We have properties that I've looked up that sold recently right down the street. 6710 Atlantic Avenue sold in November for $650,000. 6,500 Atlantic Avenue sold in November 30th for $600,000. My questions and final to the council is this project more than paving Oak Lane, helping a business owner with flooding? Projects that are put on hold like Patriots Park, flooding of homes on presidential streets, complete sidewalks, starting an A1A fund to help with improvements for safety for our citizens, small grants and for businesses and residents, catalyst projects that promote public-private partnerships, landscaping, tree planting, and many more projects that could be funded through the CRA to take care of what we have. $130,000 a year would sure help. And then finally, do we have deficiencies in recreation facilities in our city? The comprehensive plan, the blueprint for our city, states that our goals and objectives and policies that was done in 2018. I don't know if y'all have read it. I have several times. On page 37, policy R1-31 states that the city shall inventory available open space tracts and decide which one, if any, would be suitable, given the city's needs and financial resources. This process should include citizen input. It says it right in our policy. It's the process of this that happened. It's the push, the rush of this project. It's the lack of public input, which our policy calls for. So I'm at the point where I know that it was voted 3-2 that we go through with this. As my duty as a council person and I represent the people, I cannot get behind this project. And thank you. And this is our policy. It's in the comprehensive plan. And it says that we need citizen input before we make these decisions. And we did not have that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for going through that. I just want to, from my perspective and how I understand it, if you believe that this is a done deal, my fellow council members over here, they have a valid point. I'm just going by what the contract says. It's not done. This is done according to the contract to close by January 26th. The funds are still in our bank account, and we are in what we're calling right now an investigative period to where we're doing due diligence on the property, environmental studies, surveys, things, title, making sure that the site's suitable. Well, as a council, our job, I think if you were to ask us, is to represent the people. And so during this investigative period, I believe we have a responsibility to investigate the will of the people. That's part of our job. And so
but we need
between now and January 26th, this urgency tonight, we put on ourselves. And so I'm not going to get all worked up and say we got to go, because the truth is I've been asking for a workshop. Mayor Pro Tem has been asking for a workshop since multi-generational facility all the way to this. And I promise the people that if I get elected, you will have a chance to speak up. And this all started with City Hall. Why'd you build it so close to the road? And they were more shocked by, we didn't even know about it. And so I will never stop down to the final hour fighting for what I believe the citizens truly want. I want to hear this silent majority. What if I'm wrong? What if you're wrong? The workshop settles that. The workshop ends the debate up here, to quote a silent majority or to say the people spoken. I've asked to show me where there has been a decision in the past, strong support for this, and I haven't found it. The 2009 visioning. Why are we doing a new visioning? It's because the perceptions of the people have changed, but yet we're getting this project done very quickly. And I agree with our Mayor Pro Tem on this. The workshop would have silenced me. I wouldn't have had anything to stand on today. But my only concern is, why did we not want to hear from the people? Why didn't we want to engage them? And respectfully, I know our city manager said, we'll offer us, we're going to do a workshop during the design. The citizens want to work. That's after the decision's done. It's purchased. The citizens want a workshop that I talked to why are you even doing this? Why are we moving forward? And
Excuse me, point of order. We need to stick to our agenda.
I am.
This is not part of the agenda. They listened about what has gone on the prior year.
Point of order.
That's not the agenda.
The agenda item number 1 says, discuss the status of the Civic Hub Project 7404. And I'm telling you, as a council member, if there's any value in what we do, if there's an ounce of value in what we do, and that's to represent the people of this city are very concerned about this project. So my update is, we really need to seriously ask ourselves, what if we get down the road in a month or two and we found out this was something the city citizens really did not want? What if we found that to be true? Would there be regret? I certainly would. And I am saying I believe that's the case. I want to, I'll get to you one moment.
Well, I'd like to call point of order.
Okay,
I'd like to call point of order.
On what grounds?
On the discussion of this, you're continuing to go against the oath and to go against this council. So what I'm hearing from you is that you did not respect the vote of this council, and you are not willing to accept it because you don't agree with it. It states that you will accept the will of the duly authorized decisions of the city council and city electorate. Yes. By doing this, you are definitely going against your oath, and you're undermining this council and previous council.
That is interpreted by the council.
Excuse me, I had point of order.
I'm replying. If this is a violation of code of conduct, we can take that issue up. But I would suggest you read the rest of that document about the remaining. I know it very well. We've all been around code of conduct, and I don't think today's the time. Do we want to move on? Because if we want to move on, I'm ready to do that.
We've also discussed, point of order, we've also discussed with the city how it will affect this city financially, its credit, its borrowing rates, and how it would affect the city. And this council voted that it would be detrimental to this city to back out, and that this city would lose money by backing out.
That's not what I recall. You called a point of order, and I just want to, that's the only reason you have the floor right now. And if you, otherwise, everyone got their chance to speak, and I went last. And I've been talking here for a few minutes, and I've been interrupted twice now. And I would ask that you give me the time to finish, because if there ever is a point of order, it's interrupting. So please, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to move this meeting along just as much as you do. We've got a lot of agenda items out there. So this is something that it's very difficult to stick your head down and say, just go forward, move on. There's way bigger things out there when you really analyze all the issues that's happening. And so my request to this council is to ask yourself, are we just going to go forward? And if we are, which it sounds like, at least with the council members here today, no matter what, I am warning that I believe that's an honest mistake. I think that we should call a workshop, and I think that we should do it as soon as we can. My questions on the update are, as far as shifting, is in regards to the process that we followed. I have concerns that I would like to have our city attorney look into, just to make sure we've got everything covered. I went in, we have a process for how we purchase tangible property, but we don't have a process for real property. And so when I was going through and looking at this, a couple of questions is, if we have to adopt an ordinance to lease property, You know, why wouldn't we have to adopt an ordinance to purchase property? I mean, that's a much more significant issue. And in our ordinance in section, I think 212, it says to convey or lease. I'm not an attorney and I'm not here to interpret that, but I think the intent there is that we really should have had an ordinance, 2 readings, not put on the consent agenda, as Mayor Pro Tem said. Consent agenda means you don't even talk about it. The purchase of this property, a $925,000 agenda, well, we had to pull it from the consent agenda. So my question is, before the 26th, to please make sure that we are complying with our own ordinances, section 212, that this should have been read twice at 2 public meetings. The next question is in regards to state law and the process that's followed when purchasing real property. I'd like to see if this council would, before we close or move forward, is to go through section 166045 and look at that procedure in there, and also review the Attorney General Opinion 9053. And what that says is, inside is, if there is no process, it talks about things within there that I believe we should follow a procedure. State law should be followed if our own charter or ordinances does not have a procedure, which our charter and ordinances does not. And so state law should be followed. All offers and counter offers, this all came up because I didn't like how fast this moved. We don't have a process that guides us. And so when I was working with our city manager trying to learn the administrative flow with it, I didn't get to a place comfortable, and I was trying to work on a policy in the future. And then I started coming across this. All offers and counter offers need to be in writing. From my understanding, none of the offers or counter offers were in writing. Obtain 2 appraisals and take an average of the 2 if the value is over 500,000. Okay, this was over 500,000. 2 appraisals were not taken. We only had 1, and we didn't average. Now, some of this is applying to a code in regards to certain situations, but I'm just outlining the levels and the process and the procedures that state law talks about under section 166045. Provide 30 days notice to the public. We provided 1 week's notice, and it was on the consent agenda. And when the property is purchased over the appraised value, the council shall have an extraordinary vote. That means 5-0. This only passed 3-2. And so this is why I think when we move fast, these are valid questions. Our city attorney can go in and look at them, and I'll get a copy of this in writing. I actually provided a copy here for the council today, and I wanted to share it if you don't mind, please. And we don't have to talk about this anymore, but I want to make sure that you each have a copy of what I'm referencing. Section 166045 is on the front page, which explains what I'm talking about. And the next page is the Attorney General opinion. And the 3 questions from this Attorney General opinion are very relevant for what I'm talking about today. But I want to point you to question number 3. And it says that the attorney from Hollywood, Florida, another city, asked the Attorney General, a municipality which does not have any charter or ordinance provision setting forth the procedures of the acquisition of real property would be required to comply with the provisions of 166045. Well, that's us, from my understanding. We don't have a procedure. And when we follow those procedures, I don't think we did, at minimum, what Section A talks about was getting offers and counters offers in writing. I think that's a minimum. This was all done quickly. I wanted to bring that forward and have our council be aware of it. I don't think we're going to figure this out tonight, but these are the concerns that I have. Is Section 212, why would we have to go through 2 readings to lease property, but we don't have to go through 2? And what does state law have to say about what we're doing here? And I think that this is something that our city attorney should look into before we close on this property.
Excuse me, we did have two readings. We passed two ordinances. And we did have the reading. We had a discussion, a long discussion, actually. And we had two, so it's a little bit of misinformation. Plus the fact, wait, excuse me. I have the floor. Excuse me, I have the floor. And it says, but it also says, or could exercise home rule powers. Home rule powers. This is a local government. It's a local government, and it's already been decided. So I think we just need to move on, stick to our agenda, and let's get the special meeting done with. And we talk about money and finances, but what I would like to discuss is how much money it's cost by different council members constantly calling and asking the attorney. Every time that call, it's like $300 an hour.
That's not
okay,
what
and
we're
that
talking
money
about
goes
tonight.
up.
That's
okay,
not what we're talking
but
about.
we had a whole litany of things and agenda items that came chronologically. So I mean, I'm just saying that I think we need to go with the staff, and you know, we have a city manager. This is not a strong mayorship type of a city. It is, we have a city manager. We directed the staff to do something. Let's talk to the attorney, let's talk to the city manager. Let's get over with the special meeting and move on with the agenda as we have it. Let's take care of the people that are sitting waiting here, our people, and let's move on and let's get this taken care of now.
I know that's what you want.
Yes.
But that's not the citizens. And I think we have got to a point in item 1. My request is that we have our city attorney draft a memo as a double check to make sure that this is compliant with this section of the state law. He might know the answer right now, but I wanted to get council's will to avoid what you're talking about, to say, does council want our city attorney to give one more look with the reference law and our code that I've applied before we close on this property?
I think our city attorney has looked at it many.
But do you want him to do
just go ahead
a check? I'm trying to get the will of I don't want to talk to him. I want to talk to you and see if this is something you want to do.
No, I think that our city attorney is efficient and competent. That's why we have hired our city attorney. He represents many other cities. He understands municipal law. No, I trust Anthony Garganese. I trust Todd Morley. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. It is. It's a matter of trust, and it's integrity, and it's a lack of respect for our staff. Okay. And I'm getting a little irritated about this. Okay. We need to stick to our agenda. How do you feel?
Would you like our city attorney to look into this?
No, I think
no, you've answered. I'm asking Councilmember Davis to double check to make sure that this is compliant.
I believe, and I agree, that I'm sure our city council is aware of all of this, all the sections, all the Florida statutes that you have quoted. I understand where you're coming from, but I believe that if any time he saw that we were not following the procedures or following Florida statute, that he would have stepped up, because we are not going to put this city in a particular bind. So I think if he was aware that none of this was being followed and that we were doing it incorrectly, he would have made this council, city manager, whoever, aware that this was not being done properly. So no, I do not.
Okay, Councilmember Willis, would you like for our city attorney? I'm trying to keep this meeting moving along, and I don't want to ask our city attorney to do it now, but after this meeting, no matter what decisions are made, would you be in support of him double checking state statute on this and providing a memo to this council that we're compliant?
I would be in favor of him checking it to confirm that we are already in compliance. I think I agree with Councilmember Davis that I'm sure they have looked at all of it, but if it requires an additional check to be sure, then we need to protect the city.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kellum, are you in support?
Yes.
Okay. So at this time, item number 1, I I'd like to make a motion that we direct the city attorney to provide a memo before closing on compliance with state law.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by the floor by myself, Mayor Morrison, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Kellum. Any discussion, council?
I have a question. At this point, if the city council determines that everything was done properly, will this be dropped? Will this be dropped and you understand that the council has voted twice on this? And if everything has been done status quo, I'd like to say that that is it, that this is done, it's over. You know, at what point we could continue and people could come up with all kind of things, but it has been voted on. So will that be the final thing that if this council says that, or excuse me, this city manager states that it was all done properly and it is fine, will that satisfy you?
I think that we're prudent and we're continuing to look, and with 5 of us always looking and not exhaling and working with our staff, who I trust and respect very much.
If he said it was all.
There's been times where I've caught things, he's caught things, we worked because we're all working together. I'm not going to commit to that. As of today, I'm trying to bring forth everything I see today.
And I understand that, and I appreciate that you are trying to do that, and I don't have any issue with you trying to do that. I'm just saying that if he says our city council states that it was done properly, will you accept that?
Well, I don't understand.
Except that it was done properly, the purchase was done properly.
Yes, if the purchase was done properly, absolutely.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that that's going to be the end of my questions. As of today, that's as far as I can see. So any more discussion on this?
I just have one question. Are we going to go by our comprehensive plan policy where it says that we can't do this unless we have citizen input, which we did not, and we did not have workshops that we wanted? I mean, is that something that
if we want to add that to the memo for him to review the comprehensive plan? That's something that we can do.
Okay.
I don't want to go through that tonight and
Right.
ask our city attorney he needs time.
Okay.
But if that's something that we want to add to it.
Yes, I would like to see it. I mean, we have a comprehensive plan that we're supposed to
So
follow.
let's move forward with this motion and then we can add that and
Okay.
keep this moving forward. Okay. Hearing no more discussion, Councilmember Willis, if you have any more discussion, please speak up. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and call the vote. And just to repeat, this is a motion on the floor by myself, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Kellum, to direct the city attorney to make sure to provide a memo on the process and procedures we followed to purchase the promenade property in respect to state law, statute 166045, the Attorney General opinion referenced, which was AGO 9053.
General opinion, Mr. Mayor. You don't need to tell me the site. You don't need to tell me the site of the statute. I'm familiar with both. I'll be happy to provide whatever the city council would like me to provide.
Thank you very much. And that concludes the motion. So at this time, City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Davis.
Against.
Mayor Pro Tem Kellum.
For.
Mayor Morrison.
4.
Councilmember Raymond.
Against.
Councilmember Willis.
4.
Thank you. The motion passes 3-2. Mayor Pro Tem Kellum, do you want a motion to review the comp plan?
Yeah, I would like a motion that we review the comp plan policy on purchasing open space. Also, if you read down further, it says the level of service that has been alluded to in the plan, that we should have 2 acres of recreation for every 1,000 people in parks. Did we go by that? I just think that, yes, the policy, we need, it says cities needs, do we need more recreation? I'm all for green space, but at $1.7 million, and the process shall have citizen input. I don't know what input levels we need, but it would be worth looking into, I think. So do I need to make a motion that?
I have a comment. If you listen to the revisioning the other day, people stated that they wanted more green space and they wanted more areas for family, that they wanted the recreation, the multicultural center, they love Manatee Park, and they were looking forward to having more space and more family projects. That is something that this promenade could do and could provide a wonderful outlet for this, outlet for this community to all come together and gather in a particular area. We can get the input of the community as to what you would like at this promenade area, the hub area. That is open for discussion. It's open for decision. It has not been decided. So again, listen, you're talking about listening to the people. The people stated the other day, they want green space. They want parks. They want places for families to gather and places to go. And that's exactly what this could provide. And it would be up to this council and the community to decide what exactly would be put at the hub to do that. So just so there was input.
Yes, and the green space, the more credible survey would have been the 2018 survey. If we're going to go back to selling this project, which I don't want to do, it sounds like you're convinced that people want this. I would love for our city staff to put out a 3-question survey. Number 1, are you familiar with the Promenade project? Number 2, do you believe that the city should take on in debt above other priorities and purchase it for $1.7 million? And then number 3, an open comment field for them to elaborate. I think that would end the debate, but for some reason our staff is not in a position, because we've given ourselves to 26 to do that. I know they would do whatever this council wanted, but we've given ourselves 30 minutes today. And what we're seeing today is just an overrun of comments because we did not let the people have an outlet. And it's built up tension is what we put ourselves in this situation. And so if
Mr.
you've
Mayor,
got a motion on the floor to
I
review
will withdraw my motion and just leave it at what's going to happen with the, and I would just like to say, you know, I've read, and it kind of makes sense in this position, that if you have to spend your time convincing people about something they don't want, if you have to convince them that it's good for them, we're doing something wrong. You know, we have to, how many people have said they don't want this? And, you know, and again, it's been said that, oh, there's a silent majority. Where are they? You know, and if we had had a workshop, well, this would have all been done. But for some reason, we had to rush this project through. And that's my point, and I'm done with that.
Thank you. At this time, that concludes item number 1. I'm getting a note from Councilmember Raymond saying that Shannon Roberts is available. I don't know what, were you made aware of this?
No, she's here.
You're in the audience? Oh, hey, Dr. Roberts. Would you like to provide your public comment that we tried hard and were unsuccessful? Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. Shannon Roberts, 703 Salon Shores Drive, Cape Canaveral. I want to applaud the council for its earlier work to support the visioning effort, as you know, from the 2009-2010 timeframe, in which I know I've stated before that we had 150 residents per 6 of the workshops at the Radisson participate and support very strongly the town center concept. Having served on council, as you know, in the past, it was very seriously a goal of ours to purchase the 7404 property. The timing just never was right. It appeared that from our perspective, the council's decision in the spring of 2021 that this council was ready to go ahead and proceed. As a licensed realtor, the value of this commercial property, in my observation, since residences are now, you know, selling for $1.3 million for 2,500 square feet. This is over 6,000 square feet, if my memory serves me correctly. This is a great value at the purchase price that we have. So consistent with the visioning, as Councilmember Davis said, from last week that was reiterated that we want green space, green space, green space, parks. This is a beautiful opportunity for us to take advantage of that. And I guess I'm trying to understand, we keep second guessing the decision. I'm not sure, on a positive note, when we do reach a point of conclusion and decision from the council. I truly didn't expect to have to come back. I knew we were going to give an assessment of the status of it, but I thought we had long ago decided, at the recent meetings that we've been having, that we decided to purchase the property. In the realtor world, this is very difficult for buyers and sellers when you go through the start, stop, start, stop. So I'm not sure quite where the city is as a good faith partner for the purchase of this property. So that's my concern as well. But I do want to applaud the council and move forward consistent with the residents' vision 10 years ago that was continuing through the council subsequent to that to go ahead and make a decision to support this purchase. So I applaud you. I applaud you, several meetings ago, and I applaud you tonight. I don't know where you are now because I had to come over. I'm sorry about the technical difficulty, but I hope that you're continuing on with it. And as you all said, you can look at the purpose of the land with the workshops of the participating community and decide to go forward positively in the interest of the residents. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, that concludes agenda number 1 in the special meeting here. Council, we are at 6:52. This was supposed to be a special meeting by itself on a day last week. It kept getting moved. I think this is the third reschedule. It was placed in a 30-minute time slot. And that's what we're dealing with today, I think. And 3 items, 30 minutes. When you add in it all, we really just we kind of set ourselves up to fail here, in my opinion. And so if we want to continue to go forward, we can. And so item number 2, it is.
I think we should.
I'd like to make sure that we don't want to just put these on the regular meeting and roll into the regular meeting, but that's okay. Status update regarding City Council's offer to reimburse relocation expenses incurred by the tenants. We're on item number 2, Airport Studio and iTech related to the city's acquisition of 7404 North Atlantic Avenue, and consider approval of the counteroffer submitted by Airport Salon and provide such related direction as deemed necessary by the City Council. Mr. City Manager, if you want to provide.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. This item is to request direction from the City Council regarding a counteroffer. As we mentioned earlier, the City Council authorized relocation assistance from CRA funds of $5,000 to each of the 2 tenants currently operating in the building. The city forwarded documentation towards, we mentioned it earlier, but to be signed and returned by December 31st. The Airport Salon tenant, and I believe Ms. Belinda Roldan is here to speak to this. Thank you. She's here. Had signed the offer, but the counter also made a counteroffer and was related to a condition of the assistance. The condition the City Council had placed on it was that there would be reimbursement assistance for first and last and security payments up to $5,000. However, this particular tenant made a counteroffer that rather than leasing the property, she's pursuing the purchase of a new business location. Therefore, she's asking that the relocation funds go to the costs associated with the purchase, and that the council approve that as eligible reimbursement of a full amount of $5,000 because they're not renting, they're purchasing now. So this would again be CRA funds for relocation assistance, and it's the request for approval of a counteroffer. There.
Yes, thank you, Mr. City Manager. Council, any discussion on this? Any questions for our city manager or staff in regards to this agenda item?
I have a couple questions. Is there, with the American Rescue Act money, John, is there any money in there that we could, instead of using the CRA money, use? Because I saw that there was money in there to help citizens and to help people in our city. Is there money in that we could use instead of the CRA money to?
Well,
council has approved this budget with the CRA, and they already approved the money. We have $25,000 in the budget specifically for scenarios like this, and it is David, Mr. Dickey here has done the research, and I mean, we have the money here. We don't have to go to ARPA. We don't have to use ARPA funds. I think council in the last meeting has stressed the citizens here are really in need of stormwater projects and whatever, and it's going to cost the city millions. And we got $5.2 million, and I think the citizens at Cape Canaveral had spoken even earlier in other meetings that a greater sum of that money could go to help the stormwater, because I know what happened this past year on the flooding in some of these streets, and we had citizens in here saying, when do I get help? Well, your help's coming because that money is sitting in the bank. So in terms of $10,000, $5,000, $5,000, we have the money in the budget. There's no reason to use other funds, but could you use that money at this point? Right now, could be used for wastewater, stormwater, premium overtime hours for private organizations like our Cape Canaveral Fire Department, and for internet IT. They're the main things, but this is constantly changing, and there's going to be more information coming down on how the money could be used. The money, it's possible, I'm hearing the money may be able to use for many other purposes too. So it is a changing playing field. Thank goodness that council had decided that on March 31st, I'm sorry, for the strategic planning, that you would like to reserve your opinion on where this money goes for these projects at that time, because I have to report to the state by April 30th and the federal government on how we're going to use the money. So the short answer is, at this point, no, but that could be a possibility. But you already approved a line item in there specifically for that in the CRA to $25,000. So the money's right there. And the $5,000, if this was to be approved, I could write the checks to these folks tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Council? Any comments, questions, staff?
I think that we should probably give the relocation money. It's, although I'm not in favor 100%, but I feel that since the city is buying the property and caused this, I think that we should give the $5,000 to the Airport Salon and to iTech. And that will take care of the situation. And I think that that's fair in this situation.
That's a point I want to, because I found myself in that same thing, is since the city is buying this, in any arrangement where a buyer goes to sell a property, is the buyer typically responsible for relocating? And I think we would agree no. And so my concern is that if you had to ask, the current landlord is not us. The current landlord, Mr. Charlo, is there. Those are his tenants. We are a prospective buyer. We've got an agreement in place that we're trying to pursue forward. So I don't want to make the city as the bad guys, that he could sell it to anyone. I mean, if another buyer came in and purchased it, would they be bad? No, they're just a buyer. I think that the real question is, why is the seller wanting to sell the property out from up underneath their tenants? And that's his business, and I don't need an answer to that. But if you had to say between the city as the buyer, or any buyer, and the seller who's responsible for tenant relocation expenses, it should be the seller, in my opinion. Those are his tenants. And frankly, if we're paying $925,000 for this property, $150,000 over the appraised value, or over the amount, at least, I think that a couple hundred over what he paid for it. I could be mixed up, well over, to take $10,000 off 5 and 5, the sales price is what I think this council should do, is to say, The seller should be responsible. And when we close, we amend the closing agreement to give the seller $915,000, and he's responsible. And he needs to show before we close a receipt that he has paid those two tenants within 3 days, and then we will close. Whatever our city attorney could work out those contingencies, but essentially says by January 26th, city shall pay $915,000 and a receipt upon verification, or however that's worded. Or we say, yes, we pay the tenants. This is just a little messier. We pay them out, as our finance director said, and then we take it off the top. Excuse me, I got that mixed up. It's been a long day. Take it off the sales price, is my opinion, with verification that they're paid. So I think it's taken some time to think about that. That way the tenants get compensated, and I think he should be responsible for it.
I think that's a good idea. However, we've already agreed to pay the $925,000 for the property. That's already in the contract.
It would require an amendment to the contract.
So
contracts are meant to be amended.
I think that might pose some difficulty at this point, but
yeah.
Just
honestly, if the seller's not willing to pay out the $10,000, I don't. My position's been clear. I think that for the amount of money that we're paying, and we're paying closing costs, don't forget that too. So the city's got $925 plus closing costs. Like, at some point, in my opinion, this should be his responsibility. Yes, Councilmember Davis.
I don't have an issue with the agreement that it should be the owner's responsibility. But when it comes down to it, this council has agreed that we would pay the $5,000. It's in the budget, it's done. By trying to amend the sale contract right now, I think it's just going to make things more complicated. And at this point, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if this is another step to try to get us to move back the closing date. And at this point, the closing date is January 26th. I think we should keep the contract as is, give them their money that has been budgeted for, and that the finance has said that's fine. So I would not be in agreement to changing the sale, the contract right now for the sale or the purchase. The purchase of the building.
Thank you. I envision this being a 30-minute addendum on the back, or whatever instruments needed, but I think it's a pretty easy little last item we can take care of. So yes, thank you. For the record, one thing, the seller, if we want to abide by the contract, the seller is responsible for vacating the properties. And so I think we all agreed that we didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this all got messed up in the beginning. If we want to go back to the contract, I think we can go back to that.
Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. If it helps, this was a point that Mr. Dickey did discuss with the seller. If you'd like to hear from him on that discussion.
I'd love to. I didn't know that.
Anticipating the council's concern, I did have a discussion with the seller on this issue. He said he was already selling it for less than he thought he could get for the property on the open market. He would not be willing to make those payments out of his proceeds. And my opinion at this point, this is my opinion speaking from here on out, is that the deal would probably fall apart. So if the council would like the deal to fall apart, I think this would be something that you would support. If you want to abide by the commitments that the council's already made, we move forward as is. Simple as that.
Sorry, I missed something. Could you please repeat the last two sentences that you said? Dave, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure I like to ramble on, so I'm not sure what two sentences you're talking about, but my opinion, if that's where, from that point on, my opinion is if the council requires the seller to pay that $10,000 out of his proceeds, he will not, the sale will not go forward.
Is he here tonight? to speak for himself?
If, no, he's not. But I can tell you, Mr. Mayor, that's what he told me. If you're not, if you don't believe what I'm saying.
I just think that at this time in the hour, if he was here, that would be that would clear up any opinions, right? It would be, we'd hear it straight from him.
Well, we already have an agreement to pay X amount of dollars for the property.
Yes.
And that's the contract. So that's the contract that we should stick with. That's the agreement. It's already been made. That agreement was made. And, you know, Anthony has looked that over, and that's what we came up with. So I think we should stick with that figure, not try to renegotiate with the seller at this point.
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Kellum.
Yes, I'd just like to say I had asked, I think before the December 7th meeting, I had asked Anthony and Dave about amending the contract for the seller. Okay, we'll pay him the $925,000, but $10,000 will go to escrow to make sure that the tenants that got their rug pulled out from under them are taken care of. This of relocation whole thing came up because in the original contract they had to vacate 3 days after we closed on the property, which we thought was kind of harsh at that time. But I believe that the seller is responsible for the tenants. If they had both decided to stay and not leave and not sign the lease, it would go back to him and he would have to evict them or do whatever he had to do. So not only are we taking taxpayers' money, buying a building that a majority of people don't want, now we're going to take taxpayers' money and pay for people to relocate. I just think it should go back to the seller. We're going through with everything that we said we did. We're paying the amount, but I think he should be responsible to relocate the tenants. And by all means, we want to help them, and that's how this has been delayed on how we can figure out how to help these people. I think it's, we're paying all the closing costs, we're paying over the appraised value, and now we're going to pay to relocate the tenants. It's just too much. And why, I mean, if he really wants to make the deal, which at this time he should pay the $10,000.
Yeah, and I mean, think about his agreement. He says, I got $925,000. He reads and goes, I'm responsible for vacating. I compliment our city staff on that because it's like you deal with the issues and you work with your tenants, and he agreed to that. And now the city's coming in and now we're responsible for the tenant. So I think that the more I talk about getting back to the original agreement, the more I like it. And I think that's what we're trying to do. Yes, Councilmember Davis.
Well, I think, one, this council's approved the purchase. This council's approved the contract. This council's approved the price. This council decided to help the tenants, and we were going to be in discussion about giving the $5,000. So at this point, if you feel that, or this council feels that it's a waste of taxpayers' money to spend the $10,000, then the only other option we can vote on that we don't give them any money at all. So that's the other choice. I'm not in favor of changing the contract. I'm not in favor of backing out of the sale of this because of what it will be detrimental to the city. So now we have a choice. If we think the $10,000 is a waste of taxpayers' money, then we can vote no. If we feel that there is a need because these tenants have gone through COVID, they've gone through hard times, I thought this council had already discussed that they wanted to help them. So by helping them, we have the money budgeted. The $5,000, $10,000 is, my understanding, is pretty simple and clear. Then we vote to give them the money. It's just, we don't give it to them or we do. It's not anything about changing the contract. It's not anything because we never discussed prior to having the owner pay the cost. We always discussed that this council would decide if we were going to give them the money. So now all of a sudden we're bringing up, here we were going to make a simple vote tonight, and now we're bringing up this whole other issue again. So I say we vote not to give them the money, or we vote to give them the money that has already been budgeted.
Okay, I think it's a moot point. I think that they both have decided to relocate. And I think that it's a moot point. So I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and give the $5,000 to each of the tenants. I think that that's the right thing to do for the relocation.
I second the motion.
From the public and Don.
But I mean, a motion, we can still have discussion. We got a motion on the floor by Councilmember Raymond and a second by Councilmember Davis to approve the $5,000. And this is for item number 2 for Airport Salon. At this time, we can have a discussion, which I want to clarify. The agreement we signed with the seller said that here is $925,000. I agree with you. That's what we said. But in exchange, you are responsible for having the building empty. That's his cost. That's his burden. He had to do that, right?
No, we didn't. No, it was not part of the agreement.
Mayor, no, Mr. Mayor,
Did we amend it?
Mr. Mayor, if you recall, the original contract that was presented to the city council for approval said just that it would be the obligation of the seller to have the tenants vacate. However, the city council felt that that was not appropriate and that the city should offer the tenants leases. And the contract was modified based on council's direction. So now it provides that, I'm just going off the top of my head, that the city would offer the tenants leases on a month-to-month basis, and if they didn't want the lease, then we would move to closing, and if the tenants are still there, then it's the responsibility of the seller to have the units vacated. So where we are today, under the contract that was approved by the council, is the city did offer to work out lease agreements with the 2 tenants. It's our understanding, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm getting all this information from staff. Airport has found another location in Cocoa Beach and has already relocated. The other tenant, iTech, indicated to the city manager he does not want a lease, but he's found another location in Cape Canaveral, but would like the relocation money to make that happen. That's my understanding of where we are today regarding the two tenants. Unfortunately, the city council initially, Mayor, did not accept my recommendation to put the burden on the seller to handle the tenants, but that was the council's call and certainly within council's prerogative. So we're dealing with the cards that have been dealt.
So we took the liability and then the price stayed the same for him. I mean, that was right.
Yeah. The only.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah,
That's my point. It's like,
clarifies.
it's not unreasonable for us, in my opinion, to come back. I appreciate you reminding me of that. Yes, city manager?
I just wanted to add at a subsequent meeting, it might have been the December 21st meeting when there was discussion, the city council also authorized the relocation assistance of up to $5,000. That came subsequent to all that.
Yes, it did. Okay, at this time, we've got a motion on the floor and a second to approve item number 2, not approve, to approve the $5,000. We're still in debate. Councilmember Willis?
Yes, I believe that in our December meeting, we agreed to up to $5,000 with receipts based upon first month, last month, and deposit. And that was declined by the current tenants.
That's correct. And they've offered a counteroffer.
Okay, so to me, it seems that we're either going to accept their counteroffer or not. And that's our option.
Yes, sir.
That's so to me, they have put themselves in this position, not us.
Yep. Just so everyone, Councilmember Willis, I'm just going to clarify to make sure is what we voted on at the last meeting was that we will approve up to $5,000 in reimbursable expenses. The city staff put together some terms in a form of a letter that was distributed to the tenants to the criteria that would need to satisfy to qualify for reimbursement. Those came back over, and what we're seeing today is really their formal counter and what they want. Is that, you are correct, Councilmember Willis. That's what I understand too.
So our motion is basically to vote on whether or not we're going to approve their counter.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all I've got to say.
Okay. Well, I think that I would stand firm on the. I think that that's the seller's responsibility. If he's going to walk, I'm going to be shocked that $925,000. He's going to walk over pretty much 1% of the total contract. If that's what it meant, I'd be willing to take that step. But those are my thoughts, and for those reasons, I would not support this motion. I will support a motion to ensure that the tenants get paid and that they're compensated, but not this path, not where the city's going to come out and pay it down here. So I just want to be clear on why I will not support this. From what I'm hearing today, there's a path to get them paid. And I think that if this doesn't pass, I'll be happy to make that motion. So with that, any more discussion?
Yes, I'm confused because I thought city managers told us that the liability was taken off the owner and was put on us. Am I correct?
Yes.
So at this point, we own it. I mean, we have to decide what to do with these tenants. So, it has nothing to do with the seller anymore. So we have to decide, do we want to give them the $5,000 as a counteroffer or not? I mean, I think it's a clear and simple thing. It's not adding anything else to it. It just clearly states, are we going to approve the counteroffer?
No,
it's not stipulating anything else. So we either decide today we're giving them the $5,000 or
what
not.
I'm trying to say is
Yeah.
no. But
Okay.
I'm making it clear that I have a path if this doesn't go.
We have a motion on the floor.
Yes, we do. And
Thank
we're in debate. And with that, if there's any, I'm just asking if there's more discussion and hands keep getting raised. Any more? Awesome. City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
For
If you need me to
clarification.
restate the motion, I'm
Yes.
happy to do that. Yes.
Yes.
Motion on the floor is to approve
No
the
public.
counter offer submitted by Airport Salon in the amount of $5,000.
I believe we do have public input also.
And ITech.
And
That's a separate agenda item.
Yep, that's a separate one. So. Okay, is that clear to?
Yeah, we just need public input is all. Thank you for that clarification. Yes.
Got it. Thank you. Are you saying we need public input at this point for this meeting? Okay, got it.
For this item.
This was Shannon Roberts. We've got a motion on the floor to approve the counteroffer for $5,000 for Airport Studio. If there's any public comment, please come forward. Yes. Oh, that was for this. I was concerned if that was for the one earlier. Dr. Roberts, thank you.
What about on the webinar?
I'll go to them. And if you're on the webinar listening in, please raise your hand and our Deputy City Clerk will recognize you. Yes.
I believe that the council's intent, which I think over the past several meetings y'all have had, has been in the spirit of good community is the way I would look at it. And I truly believe that the city felt that it was going to be inconveniencing these tenants because of the unexpected purchase of the land. And so from my perspective, I think it was a goodness to extend the relocations amount. I'm just telling you from a resident's perspective and also just the representation of the city. I think it's a good government extension of goodwill in this case. And because it was evident, I think even when Mayor Hogue was here, there was an effort to express an interest in helping the tenants because they didn't want to displace current city businesses, which I think was a goodness of intent that was expressed way back when. This particular motion to go ahead and support them with the relocation expenses to me is consistent with that goodness. So from my perspective, I think it's a good investment of the city's funds for goodwill and support of businesses that are being affected by this.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I see. Joe, is that for this item? Yes. Hey, Joe.
Good afternoon, Joe Abrams, Long Point Road. I would recommend the council make this motion to be tentative of sale. To not make it law up there that they get paid unless you actually buy the building. Because the way this thing is going, looks to me like it could blow up.
That's an excellent point. So after closing, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. I think that our city staff could hedge that risk. However, obviously, within a certain amount of time after closing, that comment's heard loud and clear, and I think it's a valid comment. Mr. Bruce Robertson? Oh, I'm sorry, Nelson.
Hello.
Hey.
I am Nelson Rivera, owner with Belinda Fairport Studio. And it actually wasn't a counter offer. We were looking for places to rent with all the paperwork that we needed to bring to the table. We did not find anything. But we got lucky enough to find a room with no down payment, but it was an empty room. We had to fix it all. We had spent all our savings. All our savings right now, we have no customers yet. We moved to Cocoa Beach. We're going to buy, but we did not have to put anything down because all our savings, we had to prepare the floor, the paint, everything. We cried many times, me and Belinda, we cried. We don't know our future, we don't know, but we were lucky enough to find this person who brought this. Nelson, there's a spot, it's empty, you have to put everything on it. There went all our savings. If you help us, we will be able to sleep at night. That's all I got to say. If it was happening to any of your families, you would be right here fighting just like we are. It's just so many nights, no sleep. He said he could write the check tomorrow. That's all I got to say. Thank you if you do. Thank you for it.
Thank you, Nelson. And we are hoping, I think this council fully agrees, you got all five that wants to make sure that you have a smooth transition. Thank you. Okay, at this time, Nelson Rivera, Joe Brew. Now Joe's was filled out in aftermath, and then we have Bruce Robertson. Is that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Nelson and Belinda and Smiley. These business owners are the face of the grandiose plans this council has made without consulting the citizens of this community. They are the heart and soul of this community. Smiley repaired my cell phone. Belinda and Nelson cut my hair and gave me a wonderful shot of Puerto Rican eggnog. My elderly neighbor goes to Hairport Salon because it's on the ground floor. Yes, it's right next to A1A. It's easily accessible to people who walk. There's a reason why businesses are next to A1A. This council owes these people, and I understand the debate between the owner and the seller. They've just gone through a year and a half, 2 years of COVID. And you know how that's affected hair salons? Do you know how it's affected these businesses? And I understand the debate between the city manager and the contract was made with the seller. You're talking about almost $1 million that was spent on this building to demolish and ruin and wind up with a deserted, boarded, fenced over building in 6 months. Cape Canaveral's $1.7 million version of faulty towers. And every time I drive by that, I'm gonna think, Smiley fixed my cell phone here. Belinda cut my hair there. Nelson cut my hair. And I and my neighbors are gonna remember who voted for that eyesore. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Morrison and Councilman Kellum, for always reaching out to the citizens for their input, unlike some members of the council.
At this time, Deputy City Clerk Daniel, do you have any raised hands? This is on agenda item number 2.
Yes, there are 3 raised hands. The first raised hand is Patricia Dugan. Patricia, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Patricia Dugan, Columbia Drive. What I've been hearing is a corporate entity and realtor and for-profit on this whole deal. I don't hear home rule from the city council here. I would decline the counter offer and let him cancel this whole contract and be done with it. I'm sorry, you're disgusting me. I yield.
Thank you. Daniel, go ahead.
All right, the next raised hand is Gwendolyn Hagar. Gwendolyn, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, this is Gwendolyn Hagar, 509 Washington Ave. And I think we have a missed opportunity here, which proves in point that we've moved too swiftly on this project without a lot of foresight. We should have worked with these 2 businesses to relocate them within our own community. So if we're so hot on bringing businesses and supporting businesses in our community, we should have helped these 2 businesses relocate within our own city. And I yield.
Thank you.
All right, there is one more raised hand, Sean Fitzgerald. Sean, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
All right, I yield my time back. My point was made by another speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel, any more? Is that?
No other raised hands at this time, sir, no.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion from the council? Okay, thank you. City Clerk, would you please call the roll? Thank you. Oh.
This to vote to give them the $5,000
It's,
to accept the counter offer, correct?
that is the motion on the floor, yes.
For airport.
For a airport studio, yes, item number 2.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Just a point of clarification, Mayor, is the council inclined to put a payment date on that? There was some comment that was made in the audience, frankly, is a rather good comment. It's up to you how you want to address it.
After the,
No, I agree with Joe.
after the sale.
After this, how many days do you recommend, City Attorney, after this sale? Or within?
Mr. Finance Director, since
The money's approved in the budget by the council. The money's there. Right? So you could write the check the next day, 2 days, 3 days. It's up to the council.
So the closing is right now scheduled for the 26th.
Is the 26th a Friday?
So you say like 3 days after closing?
Yes.
That seemed doable to you?
Yeah, the money's there.
Yeah, I mean,
Is the 26th a Friday? Did you
Well,
say?
the reason I said that is because then we would pay it on Monday, the 20.
Is the 26th a Friday?
I don't know. I don't have a calendar. in front of me.
26th is a Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
You know,
So we could pay them on Friday then.
while I don't agree with this path, if you're going to do it, I think you should, do it as expediently as possible
Yes.
if you are going to do it.
Mayor,
I agree with after the close.
I just want to introduce, there could be a little bit of a complication if we take this path. And the next item, item number 3, Intech, his counteroffer involved the timeliness of the payment. And I know we're not in that item yet, but just to make the council sensitive to it. He can speak to this if he wishes, but my understanding from Smiley is that he needs the money to move out. To vacate, he needs the money to vacate, and after he vacates, we could then close. We can ask him to speak to that, if you like.
I understand it. I mean, he's obviously at liberty to speak, but
We're on the 18th.
do you have a recommendation? I see, if we move forward with this, it sets a precedent, right?
Correct.
For the next one. And so,
You get 2 situations. You have one tenant that's already moved, and then you have one that has not moved yet. So you have one tenant that arguably has advanced the money needed to relocate, and then you have another tenant who can speak for himself, but has not moved yet. 2 different scenarios for the 2 tenants at this point.
yeah, I think you would keep them the same. That's just my opinion. Council, do you have any, I mean, it's a dilemma for sure.
I agree with this. I was just going to ask the 2 from Hairport. You are reopened, and is this this money affecting any repairs or anything that you're having to do, or how is this, if it's delayed, how is that affecting you?
Yes, it has affected us in the clientele. But I wanna answer something first. And the reason we could not open in Cape Canaveral, it was because when we found out about the sale, we did not wait. We started looking, and every place where we looked, it was already taken or too expensive for our what we made. That's the only reason we didn't stay here, because we live right here in Cape Canaveral. We did not want to go, but then again, we did not have money for down first and last. We went in. Thank God, someone helped us gave us this location. Now this is for you. You have to put in the work. We owe a lot of people money. All our friends have done all our work for free, hoping that we get something.
Okay.
And right now, we're not open because this is new to me, because I have first time we own a business and first time we have to move out to another place. And right now with state board license of cosmetology hair salon, I have to close my license and open a new one and wait till they approve it. So right now we're not working. We're just going with the flow until the bills pile up again.
So it's the 18th that we close.
So if we had the money, once again, I said it before, I would not be here wasting my time, wasting your time. That's the only reason we're here.
Okay.
That's all I could say. But we're not open yet until we get all that settled. Once we get that settled, I'm working with Cocoa Beach for my tax ID stuff. You guys know how it goes. Without my cosmetology license, I cannot get my tax ID. So we're not working.
Okay.
That's all. We have it there, but we're not operating it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, Council. The closing date is January 26th. That's no later than. That's another important thing for us to point out, right? I mean, because are there any more items what would be the soonest you could close if you had clarity on this? Is there any more due diligence?
No, I think
I like taking the full.
Yeah, no, I think We have completed the due diligence, the traditional due diligence for the acquisition of the property. The only thing we have to deal with is one tenant remaining in the building and closing documents. And then we'll be good to go. So our intentions, unless things change, are to close on time on the 26th.
Okay.
All right, good.
Do you, so you have a motion on the floor that city attorney's trying to say, factor in date. City manager's reminded us of the next item that's coming, that the term there, the counteroffer is paying soon, not waiting. Do you want to amend your motion? Do you want to keep it? As
No, I
is?
think we should take care of one at a time
Okay.
in this particular case. And I have my motion on the floor.
And what is the time you want to, just to clarify, we agreed that paid within 3 business days after the closing on the 26th. Is that correct? That's what city.
Yeah, that's not in the motion, but
Yeah, it wasn't in
I
my
don't know if
motion.
there's a consensus of the council on that.
It wasn't in my motion.
Do we like that? It doesn't need to be, I don't think.
I think that they can get the payment directly after the closing,
So urgent.
And John said that he could write the check the next day. Thank
Okay.
you.
But before we vote, I do got an item or a comment card from Sam Green. That Green, I don't want to misspell your name. Yes, sir. Hey, Sam.
Thanks, Councilman. This is my first council meeting. I'm to be honest with you, I'm a little discouraged, but I appreciate that you're hitting this from every angle, Mr. Mayor. I think it's due diligence to spend our taxpayer dollars wisely, and I think you're hitting that from every angle. I actually went in hair salon the day you were closing. I tried to get a haircut, and you said you were moving, so appreciate that. Am I allowed to ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
You can, we may not be able to answer
Okay.
or even,
Was the property put up for sale by the owner, or did the city approach the owner or the seller and ask to purchase this property?
I will let the city staff, I don't know the answer to that question.
The property owner was generally aware that the city had been interested in the property for years. And when he purchased it, he was aware. And very soon after his purchase, we did contact him just to gauge him if he was interested in selling on a sale.
Right, so, I mean, the gentleman put up the property for sale, the city, offered an amount to purchase the property. In my opinion, it's not incumbent on the city to take care of the tenants, and I'm sorry for that.
If I could address that.
It's like if you're purchasing a house, it's not gonna be, if I was selling a house, I'm not gonna pay the folks to be able
But
to
sir,
buy another house or to move.
The city council voluntarily put itself in the position of being liable for the tenants.
I understand that. And why are we setting precedents as a council? So the next time we go purchase a particular piece of property, it's gonna be, precedents is set to pay the tenants to move out. I mean, or are you gonna say no the next time, and then somebody come back and say, hey, well, last time you gave them $5,000, why aren't you giving me $5,000? And again, I'm all for, supporting businesses in Cape Canaveral. I think it's very important. But I don't think it's incumbent on the city taxpayers to take care of this. I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that it's incumbent on the seller or, vote to not take care of the people. I mean, but it's really not incumbent on the taxpayers of Cape Canaveral to take care of this situation. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. That's all I have for the comment cards. So the motion on the floor is date specific now, 3 days or as soon as possible. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to say that this all happened and we agreed to help the sellers because this agenda item was rushed through so quickly that we felt bad for the tenants. If we had had time, and it seems to me like the seller knew the city wanted it, got it way over the appraisal value, that he would have waited for at least, and we had the time between the agreement and now to have a workshop to figure out what to do with these tenants, and to bring it back to the seller to be able to pay for their relocation or help them. I just think it's a bad deal rolled into more bad of a deal and more taxpayers' money. I'm going to support them because I feel bad for them and they should get the money, but I just think it's not a good deal all the way around. But I support Smiley and those guys. They need the help. They've been through a lot. We've drugged this out so long that we need to help them out. And I'm sorry that it's taxpayers' money and not the seller's money, but our hands are kind of tied. If we vote not to help them, that would be devastating for them. So that's where I stand.
I believe that if we say the seller pays, I believe the seller will pay. And we just have to stand firm. So I'm going to vote against this. And it's because I believe the seller will take care of you and pay. And we won't close with him until he can show proof of payment. So we are paid handsomely for this property, plus closing costs, now adding another $10,000. And so the money's there. I've been enough of these negotiations to know that there's no shame on the city. And this to me is an opportunity to do that. And so I'm not going to vote in support of it for those reasons. But if it doesn't pass, I got a motion that I think will get the tenants taken care of. Mr. City Clerk, will you please, another comment? Yes?
I'm just a little concerned about one getting money 3 days after, and then how, and I know, Smiley, how important the money is to you. So my concern is being fair about you getting money, which I want to see you get money. And I understand that both of you could use this money. So my question, I guess, is it legally necessary to have it after closing, or is it okay legally to give them the money? Would you say 3 days after today, or tomorrow, or tomorrow? You said
the day after. Just after the closing.
Or if you approve the item tonight and council says pay them tomorrow, then we would pay them tomorrow.
That's what I say. Is there
a direct staff on what you would like us to do?
Okay.
Pay tomorrow, pay after closing.
But we were moving in that direction, but a valid risk was brought up by Joe, and our city attorney pointed it out, that if we pay tomorrow and then we don't close with the property owner,
I
that money
understand,
gets
Mr.
flowed out.
Mayor, but I'm finance director, and I take direction from the city manager and council, so that is not my decision.
Yeah. So the motion on the floor is to close with the property owner and then pay. And I heard 3 days. If we want to change it, we can within 3, and I would specify business days after closing, and for the amount of $5,000 for Airport Studio.
Excuse me, my motion was to pay after the closing. That was my motion.
I'm repeating your motion.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking
I didn't say 3 days. I said after the closing. Thank you.
Immediately?
I just said after the closing.
No, so the city could just keep going a week? Okay. Is that what we want to do? Okay. City Clerk?
Councilmember Davis?
4.
Mayor Pro Tem Kellum?
4.
Mayor Morrison?
Against?
Councilmember Raymond?
4.
Councilmember Willis?
Against.
Okay, the motion passes 3-2 to compensate Airport Studio on the amount of $5,000 after the closing, scheduled on the 26th as of today. This moves us to item number 3. I think we've worked through a lot of the mechanics that we can transfer right into this, and let's council do our best to try to move through this. And so this is essentially the same, this kind of morphed into something different. Originally, this was going to be a lease with the iTech Phone Repair and Smiley there. He has now made a and he is willing to leave. However, the expenses paid up front would allow him, correct me if I'm wrong, city manager, to leave pretty quickly. I don't know the exact amount of time, but that's what I understand is that moving expenses up front would allow him to vacate, and he believes that that's the best interest of the city because the plans with the property. And so we would have essentially an empty building. And council, any comments on this? I think we're really just need to focus on the terms as the amount of money, the date. Do we want to mirror the other one or do we want to change it?
I think to be fair, I think it should be the same as what we were doing for Hairport.
Okay.
Because Hairport, right now, they have spent a lot of money already and they could have used the money up front too. So I feel that we should give ITech the same treatment that we're giving Hairport, that they will receive the $5,000 after the closing. Thank you. And I'd like to make a motion for that.
Well, we're going to make sure everyone has a chance to talk, go to public, then we'll bring it back and vote. Councilmember Davis, and I'm going to try to move through this quickly. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Kellum.
No comment.
Okay. Councilmember Willis.
No comment.
Okay. This time, if the public has any comments on the compensation, please come forward. Good. Smiley, do we understand your offer? Have we represented it well tonight? I just want to make sure that we understand.
Hello, my name is Smiley Ochoa. Well, I found a place over here in Cape Canaveral already. I'm gonna stay in Cape Canaveral. I already, I got locked. You know, like the lead, I know saying God is helping me right now. The guy already gave me the key and I started working on it. So I the money already on the place. I already painted the place, fixed the place. I mean, I just ready to move whatever you guys tell me. If you guys tell me, thank you very much. So pretty much, I'm gonna stay here in Cape Canaveral. I was lucky. I was looking everywhere. The rents were so high. Find this guy and he worked with me and he gave me the key already. So I'm ready to move.
Congrats. I believe you're the only cell phone computer repair in this city and you are valued. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
may I ask a question of Smiley before he leaves?
Oh, please. Yes.
Smiley, are you okay with the terms that was presented in item 2 that would be within 3 or a number of days after closing? Could you work with that?
I mean, I think it's everything gotta be fair. I mean, even if I think something, I mean, it's not gonna work. It gotta be fair for everybody.
Thank you for understanding.
I mean, I already have the place, so they give me the keys. So if I'm gonna have to pay, then probably gonna have to pay the rent now, and then I'm gonna have to waste a couple of weeks before I can move up there.
Do you still feel confident you can be out by January 26th?
I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna be out for that day because I'm gonna have to keep working in there. I'm gonna have to do business.
You understand we have to close on the 26th without tenants there.
No. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna be out. I mean, because I have my equipment, I have to move my equipment. If I move from over there right now, I'm gonna be close.
What we're left with in that situation then is we've got a tenant who refused to sign a lease with the city. He no longer has a lease with the seller. And we have a closing date of January 26th, which constitutes a tenant squatting there.
Oh, I think that he did not want a lease under the term unless we could meet these terms, right? I mean, and it's a mess. The whole thing's a mess. I think we know what our rights are and what we can do in these situations. Why would we need him? I mean, what I would say is whatever this instrument is, that legal agreement on compensation, that the city manager work with him on a reasonable amount of time that he could agree to. And this council, I think, would I mean, how much time do you think you would need
I mean,
after payment? 'Cause I think that's what it's dependent on, right?
I would say 2-3 days. I'll be out of there. Yeah, because I'm pretty much if everybody agrees right now, I'm gonna start trying to move it the most I can, just to be ready and move up, try to move the fastest I can.
Okay. City manager, I think that that's reasonable from what I'm hearing.
We'll work with him the
Unless
best
I'm
we can.
missing some reason why it needs to be vacated within 3 days. So do you want 5 minutes to think about it or?
I think we can work with him. The closing date is January 26th. So it's just a matter of working the days and the time. We've got a few days to work this out with Smiley.
Okay. My request from council is to honor his 3 days after payment. Reasonable.
Do you want to amend the motion with that?
I don't think we've made one yet. I think we're kind of shaping it. Yep.
We've gone through this debate because of our closing issue with our tenants, and we've had all these questions, and then we have to have the tenants out. And granted, I want to help you, so don't get me wrong. But is now we're going to extend that we're going to give him 3 days
After the closing date. So is that going to put us in another predicament? Because then are we going to be back voting on something different? I mean, the whole plan was to make sure that everybody was out on closing. So I have an issue. I would rather, I'd almost rather see him paid. I know we want to be fair. I'd almost rather see you paid and know that you are out and you're taken care of, and then the city is taken care of, and we have no issues on the closing date. So that's just kind of my opinion. I just don't know if I want to go there where we've closed and then we still have, a tenant. And again, I mean, no disrespect.
But we're talking about the 29th, he's out. I mean, we were just going to consider a 1-year lease. He was going to stay. He was going to be here for a year. And now 3 days is an issue? I don't understand.
No, I was just concerned for the legalities of the city and with the closing is what I'm concerned about.
Councilmember Willis, if you've heard the concerns, or we're trying to get a motion work together here on, we want to mirror the same thing we did for Airport Studio, which was Councilmember Raymond's motion. The tenant, ITEC, said that he would receive payment the same terms as Airport Studio. However, upon payment, he would need at least 3 days to vacate. The city manager has said that he'll work with the city manager to seek agreement with Smiley.
We'll work with him. We'll find a way to work. The city attorney and I will find a way to work it out.
Thank you. Councilmember Willis.
I say we let the city manager and the attorney work it out.
Agreed.
If we're going to go this route.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you need a motion?
This time, yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we give Smiley Ochoa the $5,000 and have that paid to him after the closing.
I second.
Okay, got a motion on the floor from Councilmember Raymond and a second by Councilmember Davis. Any more discussion?
I have a question.
Same exact motion. Yes, sir.
Can Mr. Morley and Mr. Garganese work with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this time,
I have a question.
any more comments, council? 1 second, I'll be with you, Nelson. Anything else from the council? We're going to public comment. Nelson, yes.
What would happen if the sale of the building doesn't happen to us? We will get some help.
I can't go down that path today. I think it's all risk. I mean,
We have confidence the seller wants to sell by the closing date.
Well, anyway, thank you.
Yes.
For everything.
Thank you, Nelson.
Good night.
you. Any more public comment? I don't have any cards. If you want to have comment, please fill out a card. Seeing none. Daniel, do you have any on the go to webinar? On item number 3?
There are 2 hands raised.
Yes, please.
The first one is Mr. Charles Kilgore. Charles? You're unmuted. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. This is Charles Kilgore, 609 Shorewood. I spoke earlier also.
I want to do the right thing by Mr. Ochoa also. I think he's been put in a bad predicament here. But I do have a question for the city manager and the city attorney. So the way I understand this, Mr. Ochoa has a lease with the current owner of the property. And then we're going to give him 2 or 3 days after the city closes on this to move out. Who has the liability at that point? If the place burns down or someone is injured in the process of Mr. Ochoa moving out. I just want to make sure that as a taxpayer, that that's addressed and everybody's protected. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yep, and I missed just the middle part of that, if you don't mind.
Essentially, he's asking a question about the assignment of risk. And he asked also, is Smiley subject to a current lease with the current owner? And the answer to that one is he is not. He has not had a current lease with the current owner for some time and currently is not protected by a lease. As far as the risk goes, the current owner is certainly under some risk currently without having a lease, as is Smiley, but they've agreed to operate that way for some time. And we'll have to work that out with him with the timing, as we said earlier. We feel confident we can work with him on the timing and the payment and helping him get out in a timely fashion.
Thank you. Any other comments on that one? Daniel, I think you have 1 or 2 more.
One more hand, Gwendolyn Hagar. Gwendolyn, you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
This is Gwendolyn Hagar, 509 Washington, and I wanted to thank Mr. Ochoa for finding a way to stay within our community. And I think that our city council and supporting team needs to help him in any way possible to make the transition as easy and as smooth and financially affordable as possible. Thank you, Mr. Ochoa.
Thank you. Daniel, is that all the hands you see?
No hands raised at this time, sir.
Okay, back to this council. We've got a motion essentially identical to the first one and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? Seeing none. City Clerk?
Councilmember Davis?
For.
Mayor Pro Tem Kellum?
For.
Mayor Morrison?
Against.
Councilmember Raymond?
For.
Councilmember Willis?
Against.
Motion passes 3-2. At that point, we reach the end of our special meeting. We are at 7:58. I'd like to move for a 15-minute recess, please.